Okay, hello everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I'm gonna give it a couple minutes to let people trickle in, but I would just like to say thank you to Ross for coming and giving us this presentation. You guys are gonna learn all about how to make a great LinkedIn and tons of other great tips and tricks. He's actually going to critique some LCS members' LinkedIn later along in the presentation, and then we'll wrap it up with the Q&A at the end. Our great LCS team is just going to send a sign-in link. So if everyone could just keep track in the chat. And this link is basically so we can keep track of who's coming to our events. Also, if you're a Laurier student, this will go on your Laurier experience record if you sign in and put in your Laurier email and everything. As well as if you guys are attending this event as a co-op speaker series, you need to attend the whole live stream and then sign up on this link to get your speaker series requirement. Let me just grab the link and send it in as well. Moment. Okay, so that link right there, everyone could hop in there, sign in, and I'll also just give it 1 or 2 minutes, maybe until 33 or 34, and then we'll get started. Thank you again, everyone, for coming.
Excuse me.
I think we have pretty good amount of viewers. Ross, why don't you just introduce yourself, maybe tell the chat all about you, and then we can get started for the presentation in like a minute.
Okay, sounds good. Well, first off, welcome everybody. Thanks for taking your roughly dinner time to sit and join us on how to put together a really dynamic LinkedIn profile. Yes, my name is Ross McPherson. I've been doing this for over 20 years, running my own company where I help individuals move their careers forward where they want to go. It really boils down to how you market yourself, how you brand yourself, how you present yourself. Because the reality is, you don't just put stuff out there and hope the world knocks down your door. You've got to kind of promote it to a certain degree, and I'm going to show you how to do that. I've also been working with university audiences for the last maybe 15 years, doing virtual events like this at the undergraduate level, at graduate levels, even at PhD levels. I've traveled and done in person. I'm hired every year by MIT, Wharton, Stanford, University of Toronto, Queens, obviously some of the others in Ontario and Canada, and as far away as Hong Kong. So I understand the student and graduate needs in terms of moving your career forward, launching your career, getting that kind of dream job right out of the gate. As I said, my whole expertise, I want to spend the next hour, and forgive me, I'm leaning in, I'm going to share a secret. I'm going to talk really quickly. I am going to really give you everything you need to know. If I can give you 90 minutes of content in 60 minutes, I'll do it. And then we'll have time for questions at the end. But that's kind of a brief intro into me, and I can't wait to get going. So if we're ready to go, just give me the thumbs up and wind me up and let me go.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Ross. So yeah, as he said, if you guys have any questions, just feel free to send it in the chat, and then towards the end, I'll gather them all and we'll get right into the Q&A after the presentation. Yeah, Ross, go ahead, get started.
Excellent. Okay, well, listen, thanks again. So here's, as I said, I kind of introduced it when I was introducing myself. When it comes to building a LinkedIn profile, and the same applies to your resume, but LinkedIn's a little different, and it should be different. That's a really key thing. It's really not just a matter of saying, I'm a student at Wilfrid Laurier, and I'm getting this degree, and I've worked here. Because you have to recognize there's an element of this that is a competition. You're competing for these roles. So you see a great opportunity. You want to jump right in and start your career or get a great internship or summer job or after you graduate. there's a lot of people going for that same position. You have to assume there's a lot of people. A company is going to hire the best one, the one that's going to fit, the one that's going to offer them the most. And here's one of the phrases you're going to hear me talk about is your value to a company is something you really need to try to get across. It's not just skills. It's not just degrees. Those are important. It's not even just experience. It's what all of those bring. And it's the aggregate of all of that that presents your value to a company. If a company is going to hire you and pay you a salary, right? That's their investment in you. They're not just giving you money for the sake of showing up. They want something in return for that. They want to hire the best person, the person who's going to offer them the highest return on that investment, the most value to that company. And it's your job to promote the value you bring them. And I'm going to show you how you do that. So here's the real key. Remember I said there's a lot of competition out there? One of the biggest mistakes people make in their LinkedIn and their resume and elsewhere is, again, you tell me you're getting your degree at this university, you're getting this degree at this university, and I've got this experience. And all you do is kind of say, this is what I've got. The problem is there are maybe 50, 100, 500, maybe 1,000 from your university and other universities in the same kind of role, applying for the same roles, in the same kind of position, applying for the same roles. You've got to kind of outcompete, because here's the reality. This is honestly how you look to companies and recruiters who are looking at the talent applying for their jobs. The problem is most people just sort of give them the basics. And if there are 500 resumes or LinkedIn profiles that all look or sound the same, this is what they're looking at. Well, you're somewhere in there. How are you going to stand out? So what I want to do in the next little bit is show you how you can stand out. Make your LinkedIn profile searchable, because let's face it, LinkedIn is a giant database, and there's all sorts of different ways in which you can use and manipulate that database and find information you're looking for. But from the recruiter or company or hiring person standpoint, it's a database of talent like you. And if you want to be found, they're putting in certain search criteria. You've got to have, if you have what they're looking for, you got to make certain you've got that criteria in there. So you've got to be findable, searchable. And then once they come to your profile, you want to knock their socks off. You want them to go, holy smoke, I've looked at 20 profiles today. This is the one I want to call first. That's what you really want. Okay. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm just going to start at the top and work down. And I'm going to especially show you the really high yield fields, the ones that are really going to make the difference in terms of, one, your searchability, and two, how you knock their socks off. Here's the reality when it comes to LinkedIn. First off, in terms of your online brand, how you put yourself out in the market, how you present yourself to the job market and to the companies out there. LinkedIn, in terms of how you appear online, LinkedIn offers the highest ROI. It is hands down where all the recruiters hang out. Okay, it simply is. It is not simply a copy paste, like a literally copy and paste of your resume. There's certain areas where you can, but in other areas, I want you to take a slightly different approach to it and present something a little bit different. Because if the resume and LinkedIn are identical, then there's really no reason to have both of them. Really, they're so the same thing. In a perfect world, your resume does what a resume does best, and LinkedIn, you take advantage of what LinkedIn gives you to create, to present yourself at your best. So it's not just your resume online. LinkedIn was designed to be a little bit more. It provides, here's one of the things it does. It provides a more 360-degree look at you than a resume does. A resume, there's a lot you can do with it, but it's still a pretty traditional kind of a document. LinkedIn is a little bit more dynamic and gives you a chance to really talk to your audience and tell them what makes you tick. At its best, a really great LinkedIn profile is going to do this for you. It's going to showcase, remember I talked about what your value to a company is. It's going to showcase that, really be articulate and specific about it. It distinguishes you. Remember I said there's 50, 100, 150, 300, 500 people applying for that job. You need to stand out. And it resonates with your target audience. And in this respect, I want you to think about this to a certain degree as marketing, because they have something you want, right? They have the job you're looking for. And there's, again, I'll just pick a number, 500 people applying for it. You've got to try to make certain you stand out among all of the others. And if you can talk their language, then you're resonating with that's your target audience. Those companies that have the jobs you're looking for, the recruiters hiring the jobs that you want to get, they're your target audience. You've got to write so that when they read it, they go, holy smoke, that's exactly what I'm looking for. And that's resonating with your target audience. It's like a marketing. You treat it like a marketing thing. Your profile should also be what I call complete and compelling. Complete simply means all the fields that need to be completed are completed, and there's the right amount of good content in there. And compelling, I'm going to tell you a secret. I don't know if any of you have ever hired people before, but the number of boring resumes that recruiters have to go through, the number of horrible, boring LinkedIn profiles they have to sift through, don't be one of those. If you make your documents, your branding, your marketing documents, your LinkedIn profile compelling, oh my gosh, they're going to love you, because again, you're talking their language. And here's the major problem. This is what LinkedIn should be for you. There are over 800 million profiles on LinkedIn, and most of them are awful. Ask any recruiter. They would say, on average, I hear resumes and LinkedIn, a good 80% of what they read is awful. Don't be in that. I'm going to be, the next 45 from now, the next 45 minutes, you're going to learn how to take yours out of that 80% of awful and into the 20% of really good, and ideally into that top 3 to 5% of awesome kind of LinkedIn profiles. So again, here's how we're going to do it. Here's what you need though. Before you even start building a LinkedIn profile, there's certain information you need. First, and this is obvious, but not so obvious, you need to know yourself. And when I say know yourself, the phrase I love to use, and I talk about this when you're writing a resume, developing or creating a LinkedIn profile, or even in your interviewing, even especially in your interviewing, you need to know, I mean specifics, who you are when you're at your best, not just general skills that make you sound like every other computer science major at every other university kind of thing. I mean, who are you when you're at your absolute best, really knocking it out of the park, killing it in every way. You're at your smartest, most dynamic, most professional, most productive, whatever. Who are you then? What are the words that describe you then? What are the skills that come out then? It's the version of you at your absolute best that they want to know. You're not making a person up. You're not claiming things that aren't you. I don't ever want you to make up something that isn't you. I want you to find what are the words and the skills and the experience and everything that define me when I'm at my absolute best. That's the version, and you need to probably jot that down. You need to know your target audience. If you're applying for, I'm just going to pick these out of a hat. You're applying for, I don't know, a programmer job at CIBC. I'm just picking that out of a hat. If you're applying for that, you need to look at the postings and look at maybe what programmers at other major banks are looking for. Look at those postings. What do they need? What are they looking for? Especially, what are they looking for? What do they need that you have? Personal qualities like personality traits, attributes, experience, skills, knowledge, abilities. Jot down, like, know what your target audience, if you think about it, what are they buying? What are they looking for in a great, perfect, ideal candidate? That's what your target audience is buying, to use that marketing analogy again. You need to know what they want that you have. And it only makes sense that if you can define, and I'm just picking again out of a hat, these are the 5 things, and I'm just picking 5. These are the 5 because I only have 5 fingers, let's be honest. These are the 5 things they're looking for. These are the 5 things I have that match it. Well, you ought to be talking about those. Then think of that. Then you're matching what you have that your target audience needs. This is really what I call being strategic about how you market yourself. You're not just jotting stuff down and hoping the world likes it or assuming the world will like it. You're being strategic about it. Then obviously know your achievements. By achievements, I mean, where have in some of the jobs you've had, some of the experience you've had, whether it's paid, summer job, volunteer at university as part of this club, wherever it happens to be, where have you added value? Where have you improved things? Where have you demonstrated what you can do? That you're a good worker, that you have this skill, that you can build. Again, using that example of a programmer, if you're trying to apply to programming jobs and you've done programming, show me the kind of programming you've done and jot them down so that I can see what kind of programming you've done. Or if it's, systems analysis that you want to get into, well, where have you done that? Show me the achievements. Show me where you've done it. Give me some detail. because that's going to help me determine, you know what, he or she, you have what they're looking for or what I'm looking for. What's your story? Now, this is a perfect for the, especially at this time in your career. And you may even find you have opportunities to use it later in your career when you've got maybe 5 or more years experience, 10 years experience behind you. But what is your story? Maybe you don't have a ton of related experience, and that's okay. Maybe you don't have, you're only in first year and you're competing for roles up against second years, for example. But maybe, however, you have a really cool story to tell. How you got here, why you love it, where you're trying to go, what makes you tick, what makes you you. And LinkedIn, you can't do that. You can't tell that story on a resume, but you can in LinkedIn. And I'm going to show you how you can do that and where. And then obviously, once you've got all of this, like what are the things that you have that they need, your achievements, maybe if you've got a great compelling story or interesting that makes you stand out even more, then you've got to be able to communicate it effectively. And on LinkedIn, this is what I want you to try to aim for. Sound confident, be interesting, and be likable. These are huge traits that they want. Confidence goes so far. I don't mean arrogance. I don't mean you saying, I'm better than everybody. I don't want to see that in your LinkedIn profile. But if you tell me how good you genuinely are, that's confidence. Be interesting. Excuse me. Remember I said, so many LinkedIn profiles are awful and boring. Don't be. Make yours interesting. And here's, again, I'm going to lean in. Anytime I'm going to share a secret, I lean in and whisper to you, okay? You can have all the skills in the world, all of the experience in the world. You can have everything they're looking for. But if you don't come across as someone they would want to work with, in other words, you don't come across as likable, trust me, they won't hire you. They may interview you to see what you're like in person, but they may not hire you. So it's ultimately their skills they're looking for, attributes they're looking for, experience they're looking for, maybe education they're looking for, but they also want to like you because they're going to work with you every day. And if you come across as someone unlikable, trust me, they will not hire you. No matter how skilled you are, they'll hate working with you. So be likable too. So defining your value, I'm going to run through this really quickly. Again, this is before you even start building a profile. There's certain information you need. Remember I said think strategically. These are questions you need to answer. Who is your target market? And what do they need that you have? So not only mean like my target market is CIBC. I mean, what division, what department, what kind of work, where in CIBC, and find out what they need. What are they looking for if they're hiring whatever it is you're looking for? What is your competitive advantage? What distinguishes you? In other words, remember I said, you don't want to remember that second slide of all of the flamingos that look the same. Well, what do you offer that makes you stand out? Maybe it's specific experience, specific skills, maybe a certification, maybe it's how you approach problems. Maybe it's your story. But what makes you stand out? What can make you stand out? What are your top skills, expertise, attributes, knowledge that qualify you for that kind of work? Here's a really important one. Wherever you can, it's one thing to say, I've got this skill. Everybody's going to probably say that. But if you can say, I've got this skill and this skill and this skill that can help your company or your department do this, make this better, define this, create that, program that, and improve this. In other words, you're not just saying, I can program. But if you can say, I can program that will help program this kind of thing that helps the organization do this, this, and this, then you're actually saying, not just I've got a skill or I can do a task, but I can help your company be better in this way. That kind of thing. So where can you specifically help? Where do you add value? Here's another one I would recommend you put down. Where are those circumstances when you are at your best? Where do you absolutely thrive? You may be a person that thrives under pressure, that thrives when everybody else is freaking out. You love that, and you do your best work at that. Well, why not come out? LinkedIn is a place where you can tell them that. And listen, if you're going to be higher, potentially, you've applied to a company where, quite honestly, this is a high pressure environment, they may love you for that because you've come out and said it. Maybe you're the exact opposite. Maybe you're a person who loves to dive in, just sort of like block the world out and dive deep into something. And maybe there's jobs out there that's what they're looking for. And if you come out and say it, this is where I'm at my best, then you're the perfect fit. They're going to love you and you're going to love working for them. So again, try to define that kind of thing. So that's the upfront information. That's you gathering the kind of detail to take it from a bland, blah LinkedIn profile to something that's actually quite compelling, okay? That has real content that your target audience wants to see. Remember, you're doing this strategically. What is it they're looking for? What is it I have that match it? What's the most compelling way I can make myself, so say that and make myself stand out. So that's you gathering information before you even start. And I write these for people for a living, and I have done for a long time. I was literally doing this when LinkedIn first went up and there was no one on it. I've been doing it ever since. And this is the kind of questions and info I just presented to you is exactly the information I gather from my clients. So that's how you build a great profile, is starting from the great content. Now you're starting to put it together. And I'm going to start at the top, as I said, and just work down and really highlight the most important areas. Believe it or not, and you know you do this too, I do it, everybody does it, and recruiters do it too. The first thing you look at when you go to a profile, anyone's profile, you look at the photo. We all do it. Everybody does it. And they've actually done sort of the heat map studies of where people look. And the photo always is the first place they look. So it does, believe it or not, make a difference. So the first thing I'm going to say in terms of recommendations for this, one, some of you may not have a photo up there. There are still people who don't feel comfortable putting a photo up there. It's ultimately your choice, but please realize that if you don't put a photo up there, you are 7 times less likely to be contacted. That's scary. So in other words, I would really, certainly if you're in any kind of a job search mode, get a photo up there. Others of you may have a photo, but you've put in the privacy settings that only people you're connected to can see it. Well, you're probably not connected to that recruiter at CIBC that has that job you want, which means that that recruiter will never see your photo because you've set privacy for only people you're connected to. That's also a problem. In my professional opinion, what's going to work best for you is get a photo up there and let the world see it. Even if you get your job and you want to be a little more private, that's another thing. But while you're in any kind of a job search mode, let the world find you. Let the world see you, okay? Now, if we were doing this live in a workshop, if I was standing in a room in front of you, I'd ask for questions. What do you think go into a really compelling photo? Because you've seen them as well as I have. There are some great photos of people on LinkedIn, and there are some really scary, I mean, serial killer quality photos up there. Like, absolutely, what are you thinking kind of photos? Don't be one of those, okay? So in terms of the criteria, first off, let's make it a photo of you and you alone, not you and a bunch of people, not you in front of the Grand Canyon. And I've literally seen that one. So when you figure how big the photo is, the individual was microscopic. That doesn't make any sense. It's a photo of you. It's ideally a headshot or kind of at least head and shoulder, kind of maybe upper torso-ish kind of thing. That's it. You're looking at the camera, okay? You're not looking off wistfully into the distance. That's just weird. It's not blurry. It's a good, clear photo. It's well lit, all that kind of stuff that makes a good photo. In a perfect world, you are dressed for the role that you're going for. And I don't mean if you're going to program in a hoodie, you're wearing a hoodie. I would aim for something a little more professional, like not a t-shirt, no baseball caps. This is not that's usually the guys that are guilty of that. On the female side, I've seen women who have photos up there that look like they're going to a club. They've got the big disco earrings, and it's like, no, this is not. No, this is a professional employment kind of a platform. Look professional. And I'm going to give you one more that's really important. Smile. You have no idea the difference. It's the difference between someone, remember I said you want to be likable. It's hard to turn away from someone who has this wonderful, dynamic, awesome, best version of you smile. And in a perfect world, smile with teeth, not a grin, not a smirk, an actual genuine smile. When you lose the smile, that's when some people start moving into that serial killer quality. And it's just, honestly, no, this is the first thing they see. This is first impression time. Give them the best version of you. You want them to look at this great photo, and then they're going to see this fantastic profile. You want them to be blown away. So a great photo. Let me show you examples of what I mean. And believe it or not, these are all good and bad, real clients of mine that have been kind enough to share these. So don't do these. Now, this was a client of mine years ago, and she is now the director of marketing at a very large agency. Does the photo fit director of marketing at a very large company? No. She's got the t-shirt, the shorts on a summer day, hairs in pigtails, and you can see more of the fountain than her. It's a lovely photo, maybe for Instagram or some other platform, but not for LinkedIn. Remember, this is a professional platform. You want to look like the kind of person that would be a perfect employee at that company. So professional looking. Okay, here's one of our serial killers. Here's the funny thing. I've met this person in person. He was actually at a US university I was speaking to in their executive MBA program. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He's always got a smile on his face. He's one of the sort of people that when he walks in a room, everyone goes, yay, because he was incredibly vivacious, personable, and awesome. Look at the photo he chose. When I was actually talking to them, this audience, this particular group, about LinkedIn, and I was talking about photos, everybody started laughing and talking and I went, what? And he put up his hand. He said, they're all talking about my photo. And because of that, he's been kind enough to let me use it. Honestly, that doesn't fit him at all. And why would you use that photo? Now, I understand that there is to a certain degree, in certain circumstances, there's a bit of a cultural influence to this, that in certain parts of the world, a formal photo is a serious photo. And I can appreciate that. But here within North America, remember, you're marketing for North America. And if you're looking for a role within Canada or the US, we want to see a smile. So you want to smile. Remember I said that go into a club look? Now, here's a photo that she put up on LinkedIn, and it's clearly cropped. Don't crop anything, please. Like, seriously, don't crop it. Even though I know she probably looks and goes, that is the best photo I've ever taken. My hair looks like a shampoo commercial. The lipstick is on point. I've got the best smile. I remember that whatever New Year's Eve party or whatever, this is my favorite photo of me. But this is, look, it's a cropped photo. You see some random man's arm no, this is not a professional photo. And then you just get the weird ones. I had to enlarge this one to get it this big. This isn't even a round, it's square because it was so tiny. And if you zoom in, it's blurry, but it's just a client of mine crouching next to a tiger. Why? He's not in any animal or tiger related industry. It makes no sense whatsoever. So don't do anything weird. No avatars, nothing weird. Okay. So better photos, and believe me, again, this photo is actually important. This is what you do want to do. Now, the reason I put this one up is because you don't have to have a professional photographer take it. And I love the story behind this photo. This was an executive MBA student I spoke to in Wisconsin, as I recall. It was about 7-8 years ago, actually. I still use this photo as an example. I was speaking to her cohort, her class, her MBA class, and I was talking about LinkedIn, and I was talking about the photos. She had on her LinkedIn one of those horrible photos, and it was actually from the security badge to get into her building. She worked for one of those buildings you need to go through security to get into. And she had said it was a horrible photo. While I was talking about LinkedIn, when we had the break in the workshop, she went out, that's literally 10 feet outside the door to the lecture hall in the hallway. She stood by a bright window in a bright hallway and had a classmate take that picture on her phone, and she used it. She went from director of finance to VP of finance. And I think now it's been enough years. I think she's now CFO. She used this photo. She went from a horrible photo where she wasn't smiling, literally just stood in a bright area, had a friend take the smiling photo, and it works. If you want something even better, here's another student. This one was out in California. He had a terrible photo, and I told him, I was working with him actually, helping him put stuff together. He was wanting to work in marketing actually for an agency. And so I told him, let's get a better LinkedIn photo. That's actually in the atrium of the business school at the university on the campus. He stood in there. He had a jacket, kind of like me, just a dress shirt without a tie with the top collar open, because that's kind of the brand he wanted to put across. He's not looking for a serious finance kind of a job where he's all buttoned up. He wanted something a little more relaxed. He's smiling, and he did actually get this amazing internship at an agency. That works. Here's another one, again, in the atrium of the business school. It's sort of more of a head and shoulder. She's got kind of half turn kind of a look, but she's looking right at the camera with a beautiful smile. And you can even do it outside. Mine was taken outside. There's no better lighting in the world than a sunny day. And in this case, the photographer or whoever took the picture, she stood in the right place, had a big old smile. You look at the difference between the top row and the bottom row. The top row looks like just this motley crew of crazy people. The bottom row looks like a bunch of professionals. And that's the row that the recruiters want to hire. So work on your photo. Hopefully there's a bunch of you that will realize I need a better photo. So that's the photo of you. Very quickly, I want to talk about the background photo. This currently is the LinkedIn default. They change it every so often. For all I know, they changed it hours ago because they always change it up. But this is the default. Yuck. It instantly says, I didn't put a lot of work into my profile. Now, the background photo is not going to make the difference of whether they hire you or not, but it can really change how you promote yourself and the overall professionalism of your profile. So many people don't know what to put there. Well, here's how complicated it is to find something. You literally Google LinkedIn background photo. And then you go over to images and look what it has. And so you could put in LinkedIn background photo technology, LinkedIn background photo IT, LinkedIn background photo computers, LinkedIn background photo programming, LinkedIn background photo finance, marketing, engineering, whatever it happens to be, and you'll get images. And put something that helps define or support or make sense to who you are or the brand or image or whatever you're trying to put across. Try to find something like if you're just looking generally corporate, maybe this one in the top left makes sense. I've used the one in the middle at the top with the light. I've used something similar to people who are in very creative. Like I've had clients who have said, look, I'm the creative person. I come up with ideas. I come up with concepts. So we put a background photo that has this sort of light bulb, a kind of idea, like, got an idea kind of thing. Maybe it's something far more technical. Trust me, play around with it. Find something that really supports and looks good with your profile. Now, that's the easy stuff, the photos. Now we're getting into the text. Underneath your name, and I'm not even going to get into your name because hopefully you can get that right. Underneath your name is what's called the headline, okay? You have 220 characters, okay? This is mine. That's the headline. And it's right underneath your name. And believe it or not, it's one, a searchable field. Two, this is the first thing they're going to read. Aside from your name, this is the first content they're going to read. And you have 220 characters. Most people use maybe 40. Think about it. You've got 220 characters to kind of sell yourself the first content they read. Tell them something useful. Remember, what are the things they're looking for that you have? Maybe get some of those in there. Impress them. Find something relevant. Say something here. Again, many people will say student at WLU. Okay, well, that's 14 characters of a possible 220. It's 100% accurate, but I've learned nothing about you. Think about it. So here's what you could do with that. It could be something like this, and these are just random. It could say focus, systems analysis, project management, data mining and analytics, UAT. Fluent English and French, BS Computer Science candidate, Wilfrid Laurier. That all fits under 220. Look how much you learned compared to student at WLU. Look what I've learned. I've learned that you are a student, you're completing this degree, you're focused on systems analysis, and you've actually got you've listed 4 skills and the fact that you're fluent in 2 languages. Look what I learned. So it's not like you're writing a book. It's not a sentence you're writing. It's literally just fact, 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 qualification, 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 strength, strength, strength. That's the kind of thing we're looking for. Here's another way of doing it. Laurier Computer Science major, data analytics, programming design, 2 data analyst internships at CIBC, VP of the Laurier Computing Society. Again, look how much I learned there. And you're giving me something that if that's what I'm looking for, I'm gonna read on. Here's another way of doing it. 3rd year computer science major seeking internship. And then just instead of the sort of vertical line, you can actually use bullets that kind of, a lot of people use the vertical line. I love the vertical line. I do it with my clients, but if you can, it's now become kind of the norm. Like everybody's cotton onto it. So why not use bullets? Why not use something different? So in this case, 3rd year computer science major seeking internship, strong programming, Python, VBA, Java, and data analysis mining, president and founder of the Hudson Hackathons. I think I just made that up. But you get the idea. Those are 3 completely different formats, completely different styles, but it says something and it all fits under 220 characters. I personally think the sweet spot is around kind of 160, 170 characters. Because when you get the full 220, it actually goes to 4 lines. You'll notice these are all 3 lines. 4 lines is starting, in my opinion, to look like a paragraph, and it's a little more onerous to read. But I kind of like 3, so I aim for that kind of thing. But again, just don't use 20 characters. Actually say something. Give me some real content. Where are you really strong? And you can think about that. Can you already see you've got a great, beautiful photo, a relevant background, and now underneath your name, you've got a headline that says something. That's what we really need to try to achieve. Now we get to, and again, forgive me that I'm going through this at lightning speed, but I want to give you as much as I possibly can. And I'm happy, by the way, to provide a PDF of these slides if that helps you. Just to your group, I'm happy to do that. The About section. Now, I would say most people completely misuse this. Either they don't fill out anything, probably because you don't know what to put there, or you hate writing, fair enough. Or they put in like a little tiny 3 or 4 line paragraph that barely skims the surface of who you are. That's what most people do. It's usually what I call skeletal. There's really not a lot there. They give you 2,600 characters. Now, I'm not saying you need to use 2,600 characters, but you'd be amazed what you can say in 1,500 characters and actually really say something. But here's the trick. Let's say, for example, you have a little paragraph at the top of your resume. Don't just copy and paste that into your LinkedIn. I want you to rewrite something. I know I'm asking you to do more work, but if you're going to benefit from what LinkedIn can offer you, there's a reason why LinkedIn gives you 2,600 characters. It's because they want to see some actual content in here. It's an incredibly searchable field. This really goes into their search algorithm. You've got to get some good content in here and the kind of searchable content they're looking for. Here's the trick to writing this, and I'm going to give you examples. 1, make it personal. Make it conversational, and feel free. You don't do this on your resume. You never use the word I on a resume, but here in LinkedIn, I want you to. Use the first person. I want you to literally talk to your audience. That's what I mean by conversational. Still going to be professional. I want you to sound distinct. In other words, really make yourself stand out. I want you to avoid cliches. And by cliches, I mean, don't use the phrase results-oriented. Honestly, it's been used to death. Everybody out there is results oriented. And I'm going to lean in. There's no such thing as results orientated. Orientated is not a word. Don't use it. Okay, please. I will actually hunt you down. So results oriented, try to avoid it. Find another way of saying it. Here's the other one that's a cliche, and I still see it. Strong oral and written communication skills. I don't know why when people are talking about communication skills, they have to say oral and written. First off, if you have great communication skills, you're not talking in cliches. So why would you use a cliche to talk about how great your communication skills are? If you want to talk about your communication skills, tell me about them. I also have outstanding communication skills. I can, work with and communicate and build relationships with vendors, suppliers, executives, coworkers, and someone else. Like, actually talk to me. I'm a good listener. I know how to communicate. I love giving presentations. Like, actually tell me about your communication skills. Don't give me a bland cliche. I'm going to ignore it. And every recruiter is going to ignore it too. Actually talk to me. Don't give me giant paragraphs. I would rather see 3 lines, skip a line, 2 lines, skip a line, maybe 4 bullet points, skip a line. Like, short little chunks of content are easily read. If you give me 2 giant paragraphs, I promise you no recruiter is reading them. Promise you. Break it down, okay, into small chunks of what I call digestible chunks of info. Pack it with those searchable skills and keywords. Go back to one of the first slides. What's your audience looking for that you have? Get that content in here. So feel free in this section to introduce yourself, tell them what you can do, how you can help, where you're strong, why you love it. In other words, give them a reason to be impressed, okay? So let me show you what I mean. You're going to open with everybody, you're going to open with a strong statement at the beginning, okay? Remember, if you go to anyone's profile, they only show you about the first 3 lines. Then you have to click on something to see the full about section. Make those 3 lines jump out. In other words, give them a reason to click on, I want to read more, okay? So a strong opening. Actually say something. So it could be something like, I'm a senior developer, creative problem solver, and I'm fascinated with IoT and machine learning. So if you're going into IoT or ML kind of work, that's a great opening line. Or you could do something like this. Opening line. My expertise is mining and analyzing big data and helping companies make smart business decisions. I'm completing a BS in computer science and have recently completed an internship as a senior database analyst with ABC Industrial. Look how much you learned in the opening 3 lines. Yes, I know you'll learn it from the rest of the profile, but come right out and say it. And that's going to be like, My expertise is doing this. I help companies. Remember I said, how do you help companies? I help companies do this. I'm completing a degree and I've already had an internship as a senior database analyst with ABC Industrial in the top 3 lines. And then after that, you can say all sorts of stuff. Skip a line. And then you could say any one of these or few of these. Maybe if there's a brief summary of either your work or academics or whatever, maybe you've got co-ops or internships you've had, or maybe you could talk about specifically kind of role and work that you're looking for and why, what you love about this industry or this kind of work, where you thrive. And you can literally start a paragraph with I thrive, or I'm known for, or people always tell me I'm blah, blah, blah. Any personal traits, attributes that they're looking for that you have. In other words, when are you at your best? This is a great place to tell your story, for example. If you volunteer, if there's something personal or distinguishing, when I'm not, completing my studies, I'm on the varsity whatever team, or I love to play table tennis, or I love to windsurf, or whatever it happens to be. Remember, show a little personality, talk to me, make yourself kind of stand out, be interesting. So I'm going to show you some samples. I'll run through them really quickly because I want to make certain we leave enough time. So here's one way of doing it. There's a couple of ways. I'll show you different ways of doing it. You'll notice these are short little chunks of information in each little paragraph. And I know for those of you that hate writing, I'll show you how you do this. Each paragraph has a topic, and then you skip a line, move on to the next topic. So here's the opening. I'm a recent marketing business administration graduate from Ryerson, and I've just been hired as a summer marketing intern at TD Bank, where I'm working on digital and social media campaigns to promote their personal and commercial products. This is not a technology one, this is a marketing one. But that's a great opening one. This is my degree, and I've recently been hired by TD as a marketing intern where I'm doing this. Great opening. That's all relevant information if I'm a recruiter. Skip a line. Now we have a different topic. We want to get some marketing content and searchable terms and skills in here. Working with TD as a marketing intern is the perfect opportunity to build upon my passion for keyword skills, creative marketing, advertising, media, social media, messaging, and design. Notice how personal and conversational this is. I love contributing to exciting campaigns and developing dynamic marketing that creates buzz. Next line is about what he or she has done at TD. My role at TD is to help design and launch a new digital RSP campaign, in this case for 2021, with a focus on targeting the 18 to 25-year-old demographic. By analyzing the market, my team and I have assembled an exciting strategy designed to double web impressions and increase business by 7 to 10%. The value to the company of the work that he or she did. And then a little more personal stuff. One thing about me is I love a challenge. The bigger, the better. I've been told I have an ability to be deeply analytical while also being incredibly creative. So chances are my solution will be innovative, but rooted in solid analytics and market data. Skip a line. And above all else, I work hard. When I'm not building TD's new RSP campaign, I'm attending events with the Canadian Marketing Association and blah, 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 blah. I'd love to connect with you, so send me an invite or you can email me here. Look how much we learned. Look how motivated, driven, and skilled this person sounds. That's what I mean. And you look, the paragraphs aren't giant and it's conversational, but look how much we're learning. Look how much real marketing content is in there. And that's probably only maybe about 1,200, 1,300 characters. So look how much you can do if you just talk to me. Here's another way. Now, for some of you, again, you hate writing. You look at a blank, about section and you start to panic. Let me show you another way you can break it down into sections. And LinkedIn doesn't give you the opportunity to create headings. Like you can't bold and center and change fonts and do all that kind of thing. But there is a sneak way of actually building or putting headings in there. And all it is all caps. So here's what you do. You have a strong opener. Again, my expertise is mining and analyzing big data and helping companies make smart business decisions. Sounds familiar. I have a BSc in quantitative analysis and have recently been hired by TD Direct Investing as a senior database analyst. Now, in this particular case, this candidate had zero beyond this, no other relevant work experience. So there wasn't a lot because she's only recently been hired, so hasn't got a lot of experience to talk about, but she does know what she can do. Here's what I can do. Remember I said, how do you help the companies? I can create powerful tools, models, systems, KPIs, and metrics that support sound financial decision-making and reduce risk. So it's not just skills, it's here's the value to the company of what I can do. I can contribute to improve financial performance for banks, real estate companies, trust funds, blah, blah, blah. I can provide market evaluation, profitability analysis, cost accounting systems, formulate risk management strategies, perform data analysis and data mining to evaluate investment opportunities. I can analyze large, complex data sets and metadata for forecasting. Look how much value this person is talking about to the company. And remember I said, if you got a great story, my story, another heading. I've lived and studied in 4 countries around the world. These experiences have enriched my life and also helped me learn to be adaptable and quickly fit into different environments. Skip a line. After completing my bachelor's, I knew I wanted to work for a leader in financial services. My role as a senior database analyst at TD has offered me that opportunity, and I've since been able to expand my knowledge and expertise with exposure to a few more skills: risk management, investment management, financial derivatives. Another heading, more about me, blah, blah, blah. I'm highly analytical. I love exciting, fast-paced companies. I work best with large, complex amounts of data, and I love a challenge. And then how to contact me. So you could use headings if you wanted to break it down. Look, there's 4 things I want to talk about myself to really showcase what I can do or what I've done or what makes me a strong candidate or the skills I've got, and you can just do it that way. And this last one's kind of fun. This was actually an executive in music. He was way up there, like C-suite, kind of like chief information officer, chief technology officer, that kind of thing. But he worked in the music industry. So when I was 16, I started a fan website for the band REM. The rest of my career extends from there. If he's marketing himself as an executive in the music industry, that's an interesting kind of clever opening. And then he goes into what his background looks like. I lead digital transformations with an eye towards building long-lasting cultures and products. Skip a line. And remember, look, he's building his own brand. I'm a geek in every sense: music, media, technology. I enjoy being labeled as such. I lead and manage geeks the way they want to be led. I design projects. Sometimes I program. I like music way too much. Specialties. And then he goes into this, everything from digital transformation, mergers and acquisitions, systems designs and architecture, everything. Skip a line. He's experienced in doing this and this. I've launched web and mobile products for multiple Fortune 500 brands. Skip a line. More importantly, I understand not only technology, but the why, when, and how to apply it in a product and user-driven manner to solve real business problems. Fascinating profile. And it talks to you. You get a sense for how good he is. You get a sense for his personality. He's talking to his audience. He stands out from the boring ones that say, I'm a technology executive and I help companies with their technology investment. Like, oh, come on, really? So do the other 500, chief technology officers I'm looking at. Make yourself stand out. So those are just different ways of doing it. I want to see some personality in yours. Other things, and I'm just running out of time, so I'm going to race through them. The experience section, if you have great resume content for the experience section in your resume, it's the only place I'm okay if you copy and paste from your resume. You can also add in any current roles. So your current role, if you're an executive with the club, put that in there. Make that part of your experience section. Get it in there. You can also, they give you 100 characters for the position, title, and the company. So if you have a position that isn't really clear, you can expand it. Like, here's what I did. That's my title. That's the heading I use for position. I didn't just say President Career Quest. I put in a lot more content. So there's all sorts of stuff you can do in the experience section, but I'd also recommend get content in there. They also give you about 2,000 characters per job. You don't need to use all 2,000, but in other words, LinkedIn wants you to put content in there. Actual bullet points, descriptions of what you did, your accomplishments. There's also a skills and endorsement section, just called skills, but they also give you an opportunity for people to endorse you. Most people have maybe a handful of skills. They give you up to 50. Here's my challenge to you. If you're still, you don't need 50 right now, but certainly at this stage of the game, you're a university student. If you've got any relevant work experience doing the kind of work that you want to do, like an internship, summer job, co-op, whatever you want to call it, you should be able to put 15 to 20 relevant skills down. And they always, whichever ones typically have the most endorsements from other people, LinkedIn will automatically make those your top 3. You want your top 3 endorsements or not? You want your top 3 to be the most relevant ones you want to be known for, the top 3 you want to be known for. So you can unselect your top 3 and make them whatever you want to. And it's just simply a matter of going into that little pencil icon and editing it. Education makes sense, but if you have anything like activities and societies, list them. Specific relevant projects, get them in there. Anything else that might be relevant that showcases not just that you're getting a degree currently, but what you're doing on top of it or any relevant projects you're working on, It gives you the opportunity to put some relevant content included in your education, so do it. Other sections that might be relevant: licenses and certifications, patents, publications, courses, volunteer, honors and awards, languages, organizations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do you need to include all of them? Obviously not. If there are any that are relevant, complete that section, okay? And give me some actual detail. Other tools and tips I'm going to quickly run through. You can customize, if you're not aware of it, you can customize the URL to go to your specific LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn will automatically give you one, but it has a whole bunch of letters and numbers at the end of it. And it looks kind of messy. If you go up to the upper right, you'll see edit your custom, create your, edit public profile and URL in the top right of your profile. Go up there and try to make it something a little bit more customized for you. And then you can put that in a signature line in emails. You can put it on a business card. You can put it at the top of your resume as a link, and it looks a little more polished than the default one LinkedIn gives you. By all means, and there's the steps to do it, connect with alumni, okay? They're a tremendous resource. You don't contact alumni of your program to ask for a job, but you do ask if you can connect and say, look, I've done a little bit of research. I'm currently in the same program you graduated from 2 years ago. I'm fascinated with how you got into whatever company, how you're now working with Google or Tesla or something, if that's where you want to try to move, and find out, I would love 15 minutes of your time at your convenience. And if they say I'm only available at 11 p.m. at night, then so be it. It's at their convenience, and you just find out information that might help you move towards where you're going. You're not asking them for a job. You're trying to gather data. Getting visible. You have a homepage. You have a status page on LinkedIn. Use it. Works like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, however you want to think of it. Share a document, include a photo, add a commentary, stay in touch, build your community. It's a tremendous way to do it. Write an article. I have known people. I knew someone, I was actually talking to an audience once at Bank of Montreal, of all places, and I told them this, gave them an example of an article someone wrote, and one of the people in the audience got back to me about 2 weeks later, and he said, just wanted to let you know, I wrote an article, a relevant article to what he does. I posted it on LinkedIn, and it went viral. And he said, I have had 15,000 hits for this. I have people all over North America contacting me, asking me for more and wanting to connect with me. It is incredible. If you're trying to get visible and you want your target market to know who you are, write an article, get out there. I've known so many examples. I've known people who've gotten really rare, coveted jobs because the right person they were connected to saw an article they wrote and went, wow, that person sounds impressive. There's a great one, actually, you can find in LinkedIn and through their sort of LinkedIn learning kind of area. And it's called Publishing It on LinkedIn for College Students and Young Professionals. And it gives you some good tips. Some final thoughts before I'll give you the final thoughts. Then I've also got some samples of some of your colleagues and fellow students. We're going to run through those very quickly, but some final thoughts before I do that. To pull this all together, and I know I've been going at the speed of light through this, but I can't stress this enough. The whole thing I've been telling you is don't just bang stuff together. Don't just put stuff down and hope that someone likes it. Take a very deliberate and strategic approach to say, this is the kind of role I want. That's what the market is looking for in terms of skills and qualifications. These are what I have that match it. And I'm going to build a profile that sells that in the most compelling and interesting way I can. Showcase your skills, what makes you unique, what they're after, what you're after, show where you fit in, what you can do, how you can help. Actually talk to them. Consider who you're trying to attract, your audience, and write to them. Put your profile, in other words, in that top 5% of great profiles and the right opportunities and connections, I guarantee will come your way. And before I start talking about the go to the actual live samples, I just want to say this. I started working on this last year and wanted to actually launch it last year. Unfortunately, something got in the way, and I'll have to be launching it this year. But coming soon, this whole No BS Career Success series, these are all the kind of workshops that I do. And I'm putting these programs together. It's a video series for people just like you, students, grads, anyone sort of in the career starting kind of phase. And it's going to have resumes, dynamic LinkedIn profiles like this, cover letters, other correspondence, how to interview like a real pro and get the job offer. I'm going to be announcing this probably in the next few months. If you want to follow and sort of, again, I had to put it on hold for a bit, but on Instagram and LinkedIn, It's at nobs_career_success. If you want to follow and find out a little bit about it. Let me just quickly go to some of our LinkedIn profiles. So here's one of yours, one of your colleagues and one of the executives. Just going to run through like the background photo. Great. I don't have a problem with it. A couple little things that are really good in this and a couple little things that I think could be better. I know I see it all the time with my clients where it's only, you put it in and it's only the first letter of your last name. In a perfect world, I'm going to be honest with you, the market prefers if your last name is Qureshi, put the whole name down. It just goes over better. Again, headline, BBA in computer
Sorry
science.
to interrupt.
Oh, sure.
I don't think the LinkedIn profiles are actually sharing, so you might have to reshare on your Google Chrome.
Oh, okay.
browser.
Okay, let me, do you mind if I just sort of unshare and then reshare?
Yeah, no problem. No problem. We can get it set back up.
Thank you for letting me know. Now I will share again. Okay, is that better?
One moment. Yeah, totally perfect. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. Okay, so yes, if your last name is Qureshi, I would say put the whole name down. The other thing about the photo, I don't mind the open to work kind of thing, but here's the thing. If you're going to use the open to work label, nowhere in here does it tell me what work you're looking for. It's not in the headline. There's no about section. So if you're looking for work, you've made it really difficult for me to know what you're actually looking for. So again, now that you can see the difference, take advantage, put what you're looking for in that headline, build an about section that talks about it and what makes you perfect for it. In terms of when you get down in terms of experience, you've got some experience, but you didn't put any bullets or any content underneath it. So you put staff accountant at KPMG. KPMG is an impressive co-op, but you haven't told me what you actually did. You know, you also had a co-op at CGI, but you didn't tell me what you did. And that's, again, it helps me as a recruiter understand the work that you've done, and I can then relate it to the work I want you to do for me. Talk about what the great work was that you did. And remember, this is a searchable field. So get content in there that helps. If someone's doing a search for someone like you, you want to come up as a match. You can't come up as a match if you don't have content in there. So get content in each job. The education, great, I like it. Licenses, certifications, that's great. You've got 10 skills. Again, is teamwork. Remember I said it automatically defaults your top 3 are the ones you have the most endorsements for. Is teamwork, think about the roles you're looking for. Is teamwork the #1 skill? I know it's good, but is time management your #1 skill? Is data analytics maybe even your number? You want the top 3 to be the top 3, the ones that you would want to put after your name on a business card. Like, these are my top 3 areas of expertise. That's what you want this to be. Honors and awards, I love that you completed that. That's awesome. You could even put that in your about section though. You know, I've also won, 17 academic and professional awards for, this, and this. So that's what I'd recommend with this particular profile. Let me go to Aiden's very quickly and scroll to the top. Aiden, again, background photo, I don't have a problem with it. It's interesting. The photo, kind of a head and shoulder, very professional looking. I like that photo, not bad. There's one thing about the photos I'm going to comment though. Once again, you've got a headline that's pretty simple. Honors computer science student at Wilfrid Laurier University, 100% accurate, but Aiden, I don't know anything about you. Remember what the other headlines can tell, what they can really showcase. So really take advantage of that and tell me more about what you can do. Now, when we go to, you have completed an about section, and it's not bad, but it's one of those sort of standard paragraphs. I'm a 3rd-year international student from Trinidad and Tobago, enrolled in honors computer science at Wilfrid Laurier University. I have a strong passion for academia, and more specifically that in the realm of technology. I find myself immersed in software development, creating full-scale projects to further my skills. But I also enjoy astronomy, neuroscience, psychology, and so forth. But you told me that you are getting a degree at Laurier in computer science. You said, I have a strong passion for technology, and I've immersed myself in software development and creating full-scale projects. I don't know what type of technology you have a real passion for. You did mention software development, but what else? You mentioned you've worked on projects. I have no idea what kind of projects you're talking about. So even though you've told me some stuff, I haven't learned anywhere near the level of detail. And again, compare this to other about sections I showed you. I want to know more about the passion you've got. Where is the passion? Technology is too broad a category. Narrow it down. What about technology do you love? What beyond software development? What kind of projects have you done that are relevant? Talk to me, Aidan, because it's going to give me an idea of not only more about you that's going to make you stand out and be really interesting, but you're also going to probably tell me what you can do. And if I'm a recruiter, I might be really impressed. Then we get down to some other things, which is great. I don't mind. You have a website? Awesome. And I hope you have that much more content on your website as well. And there's a link to it there. Again, here's an example of you putting your current role at the Laurier Computing Society in here. I think it's great. You've also given us some detail, which is great. That's what we want. We want to see content in your employment section. So I love the fact that you've done that. Education, fine. If there's anything else you can put in there, projects, other societies, clubs you belong to, scholarships, awards, it can go under there. Licenses and certifications, great. Whoops. Volunteering, love it. And you have others. Now you've got like 17 skills. Now this is an example where it looks a little bit more relevant than the top three. C, Rust, and Python. If those are the top three you want to be known for, that's perfect that they're in the top three. Again, you can unselect them and move them around, move your skills in any order you want to. You can literally reorder all the skills you've got. Make certain your top three are in fact your top three. And then you've got honors and awards. Fantastic. So that's not bad at all. And let me just go to the last one. Abrar, not bad at all. Again, you've got a relevant background photo. I like it. You've got the photo. Again, really plain headline. I will say that, again, CS at WLU, searching for a spring-summer 2023 internship. Okay, can you tell me more? What are you really looking for? Where are you strong? Like, again, take advantage of the 220 characters you've got here. You're probably using about 60 there. I want to see some more, okay? Now, here's the other thing about all of them, and I'll bring it up here, and I'm not picking on you, Abrar. I can say it about all the other two that I showed you. Not one of you is smiling. Not one of you, okay? I want to see a smile. I want to see the best version of you. And I would say, Abrar, in this case, the t-shirt look, the t-shirt and no smile, this is not your strongest look. I want you to look more professional. I want you to look more personable. So all of you, I would recommend, you've got good photos, but they're not great photos. They're okay photos, but they're not great. So all of you, try to put up something there that smiles, try to look the part a little bit more, that much more professional. The about section here, Abrar, this is what I'm talking about. Look at this. Now, you don't need to say, think about it. You don't need to open with, hello, my name is Abrar, and I'm currently a first-year student pursuing a degree in computer science at Wilfrid Laurier University. Believe it or not, I learned that in your headline. So you don't need, you can find something. Personally, you could skip that whole first line and start it with the second paragraph. I'm a computer science student. I'm fascinated by the endless possibilities that technology has to offer. My interests lie in full stack development, machine learning, AI, and cloud engineering. That's an interesting profile. I loved the content in here, Abrar. You did a really great job. I think you just need a more dynamic opening line. And quite honestly, the second paragraph is awesome. And you've got all sorts of great content in here. Let's see, down to experience. Again, get some content. You're a web developer, with a couple places. Tell me what you did. Get some actual content in there. Education, again, if there's anything, projects, awards, scholarships, anything noteworthy in your education, get it in there. Your licenses and certifications, good. Volunteering, look, you put content in the volunteering, but you put nothing in the experience. And your work experience is going to give you a lot more traction and be that much more attractive to employers than your volunteering. So get content in the work experience. Your volunteering, fine. You've only got 3 skills listed. Cascading style sheets, HTML, and Python. Come on, man, you can get easily 15. I want you to aim for at least 15, okay? You've got them because they're not all technology. Some of them might be, communications, interpersonal, team building, leadership, presentations, whatever it happens to be, critical thinking. I mean, there's so many skills. Again, learn what your target audience is looking for. And if you've got those skills, they ought to be in here. Okay. Now, I will say this is just a pet peeve of mine. Under languages, and I don't mind putting multiple languages. I wish I had more than what I have. But if your native is English and the only other one you have is elementary French, I don't know, between you and me, I don't know. I never understand why someone would try to advertise, I have basic French. No one is hiring for basic French. If they want French, they usually want fluent. So it's kind of like putting a skill down that you're not very good at. It's just a little pet peeve of mine. You don't necessarily need to promote that. So that's sort of the quick run through. I went about 5 minutes over. Thank you, by the way, so much for the three of you to volunteer it. I hope you understand, like, you're on your way. All three of you are really close. You just need to punch it up where it needs to be punched up and turn it from okay to something spectacular. So that's really it. Now let's throw it over to some questions. Jana, are there any questions that have come through over the last little while I've been spewing for 60 straight minutes?
Yeah, there's actually a couple.
Okay.
We also had some great feedback in the chat. People are saying, you should start a podcast, like,
Oh, that's not. I'll take that as the best flattery out there.
Yeah, and we'll make sure to send out your information after the event so people can view the Instagram page and keep up. Okay. One of the first questions we got is kind of broad.
Okay.
So they're saying, what kind of experience should I show off most? I know we kind of went quickly through the experience section.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, if I'm going to answer that, and that's a very broad question, but let me answer it to the best of my ability. Obviously, the kind of experience you want to promote most is the most relevant to what you're trying to do. So if you're going into programming and you've been a programmer, you've been a web developer, for example, you've got to showcase that. So all the relevant experience, that's the stuff you really push. But listen, if you worked at Starbucks and you were a shift supervisor in Starbucks, that shows me certain other skills. So I'm not saying, obviously, number one, relevant experience, okay? Applicable experience in technology, IT, computers, whatever. But don't downplay some of the great work you've done elsewhere that shows that you do take on more responsibility. If Starbucks, promoted you to a shift supervisor, that means they trust that you know what you're doing. You can lead others, you can train others, you can organize things, you can take on other levels of responsibility. And believe it or not, at the early stages of a career, companies want to know that you are just a good worker. You're a good employee. You can take on you stand out. If you're the shift supervisor, they picked you over all the other staff to be the shift supervisor. That tells me something about who you are and the kind of leadership and responsibility you can take on. So number one, I would say relevant experience and all of the great work you did there, and be specific. Tell me what you literally did. And then any other relevant experience. You don't need to go all the way back to, you were a paper boy. You know what? Honestly, let's be honest. There's not an awful lot behind that. There's not a lot you could, and don't try to make it sound like you were the CEO of a company. And I've seen people try to do it. So most relevant, but don't diminish some of the others that aren't as relevant if there's something to say in there. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think a lot of computer science kids might think to only put their technical experience, and then it just ends up looking like you're listing everything you're good at. But I think it's important to have those soft skills in there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Listen, there are companies that hire predominantly on soft skills. I'm not kidding. Yeah. There are companies that really do. So don't diminish those soft skills. And those are like your personality traits, your attributes. Just that like leadership, team building, and all of those are really important. It's not a technical skill. Remember, if all you do is list your technical skills, you're going to look like every other graduate that has the same technical skills. You're not standing out.
Exactly.
Be the one that stands out. Exactly. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah. So we have one kind of about the about section. So it says, can we include like funny quotes or quotes we like in the first 3 lines? Also, along those lines, asks if emojis are okay as well.
Okay. Here's, in terms of quotes, I would say if it's a really compelling, interesting, relevant kind of a quote, yes. If it's a funny quote from like an episode of The Simpsons, no. Like this, I've seen it done. And, when it comes to funny and humorous, that is a really dangerous area to get into. I don't mind you showing a little personality. That's nothing wrong with that. But I've seen it absolutely. It comes across as so childish and immature and unprofessional if it goes too far. I remember actually reaching out by email to a colleague of mine in my industry. I went and looked at her LinkedIn profile because I was thinking of contacting her, and her opening line was this joke. And I had to tell her, I said, I hate to say this, but it really hurts your credibility in the first line. I'm looking for a professional at a certain level, and if I don't get the joke, you've really hurt your credibility, professionally speaking. So I would say I would err on the side of not, unless you're really, really careful. My other thing is emojis. I'm going to be honest with you. You know, the person who might be hiring you is 42 years old. He or she is probably not impressed with emojis. So I would say, again, err on the side of no. You put it this way: you can go wrong by including them. You can't go wrong not including them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's very fair. Like you want to hook people, but not in a negative
not
way.
In a cute, fun way. You want to impress them, not appeal to their cute sense of fun. Trust me, some of these people, you know, they're 42 years old, they got a mortgage, they got 2 screaming kids, and they just want to go home. And that's not the professional persona that you want to put across. It really honestly isn't.
Right, makes sense. One more.
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple more actually.
Okay.
One about a custom URL. So if your first and last name aren't available, how do you recommend making your
good point.
URLs?
Yeah, you have a really common name. And I've seen that a lot. I'll give you an example. Even though I told you I was on LinkedIn right from pretty much the beginning, there was another Ross McPherson who beat me to it. So I'm Ross McPherson 1. So you can put a middle initial in there. You could put like I've had MBA classes that have asked me the same question, and I've said, well, once you get your MBA, it's your name MBA, or your name, middle initial, short form, include a middle name, include a degree, or maybe some certification after your name letters. That's a way to kind of find something that makes it yours. But I totally understand if you got a really common name, you have to kind of play with it until you can find your own.
Right. So maybe if they put like WLU
there
at
you
the
go.
end of it.
Perfect. Exactly. That's a great thing. And down the line, you can always change it. So
right, yeah.
8 years from now, you probably don't want to put, when you've graduated, you've got 5 years experience under your belt, you may not want WLU after it. You might want something else after it. So you can play around with it. Don't worry.
Here's one actually from the LCS team. So it's,
yeah.
Hey Ross, I know you said to fill out the about section more, but besides being a computer science student, I feel like I don't have a lot of other relevant information to add since I'm only in my first year. Any advice?
Okay. If you don't feel you have too much relevant, like you are in your first year, you don't feel you have too much experience yet. Talk about, remember I said you might have an interesting story. Like open with, kind of similar to what Abrar did, I'm fascinated by technology. That's why I came to, that's why I wanted to get into technology and get a computer science degree. I loved what I was learning about the program at WLU, and I joined it because I wanted to take classes in this, and this. Ultimately, I would love to see myself, jumping into, I don't know, IoT and machine learning. That's an area that I think has endless possibilities. For the moment, I've been focusing my studies on this, and this. Ultimately, I also think I'm strong, on the more attribute side of things. I've worked at Starbucks, I've worked here, I've worked there. I was a shift supervisor. So I'm someone that could be taken on a lot of responsibility and can train other people. Like I just made that up off the top of my head. And that was probably about 400 characters if I wrote it out. So don't think I need to have hardcore computer science experience that only talk about. Remember I said, your story could be interesting. How did you get here? What else have you done? I saw one profile that said, remember I said you could have headings? And I saw one that someone had put, because I had told them about headings, and we went and he showed it to me. And the heading was other things that make me interesting. And it had nothing to do with work. And he put bullet points under there that were really cool things about him. And it made his stand out. So don't worry about it. If you can't talk about all the experience you've had, then talk about what you would love to do, why you love doing it. What are your studies? What are some of the best projects you've worked on? What's your favorite course right now? What kind of work would you love to do? What makes you tick? Tell me more about your personality. Like, again, make it interesting. And here's the other thing. Even if you haven't done it, And it's hard to get like relevant searchable content in there because you haven't got the work experience behind you yet. That's where you could have a heading that says, here's what I want to do, and talk about what you want to do. So you're not talking about what you've done, you're talking about what you want to do, but it's the similar content, and it's now searchable content. So trust me, even if you're in first year, trust me, you can talk. And I don't need 2,600 characters, don't worry, but you could do half of that, and you've got a really interesting about section. So by all means, go for it.
That's great advice. I think a lot of people can take that just right, exactly what you just said. One question I saw that actually interests me as well is, should I be sharing content on LinkedIn? And if so, what kind of content works best? Because as the days go on, I feel like LinkedIn becomes more of like a social media site where people are posting stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, when I said kind of building community and using that status page to your advantage, if you read an interesting article, find an interesting website with an interesting article or link or something, post that. Post something relevant about that. If you had an opportunity to work on something or meet someone really interesting related in your field, I've known people who have posted that. Remember I said post an article. Give you an example. Again, people who have used articles, and again, I'm a huge proponent of it, but I actually knew it was an MBA student, and her only work experience before getting into the MBA program was that she was, I think, a manager at a Chuck E. Cheese. That's it. That was the only, the other people in her class had really impressive backgrounds. She was a manager at a Chuck E. Cheese, got into the MBA program. She wrote an article because what had happened was she worked in Salt Lake City. That was where she was going to school. And Barack Obama and Oprah Winfrey they were coming to Salt Lake City for this huge convention talk kind of thing. She desperately wanted to go. This was a number of years ago. Desperately wanted to go. She did not have the money because she was a single mother who had been a manager at Chuck E. Cheese, and she's getting an MBA. Her life is busy enough. But you know what she did? She made lasagnas for her class, sold them, and earned enough money to buy a ticket. But when she went to buy a ticket, by the time she sold enough lasagnas, it was sold out. But she wrote an article on LinkedIn, called it Lasagna to Obama, which I thought was hilariously clever, and wrote about what she had done and why she wanted to do it. Someone in her connections knew someone who was putting on this conference and got her a backstage pass for free. And then ultimately she wrote another article, and she ended up getting it into a consulting company because they thought, this is someone unique. This is someone with an amazing story to tell. So there's all sorts of great content. I'll be perfectly honest, I'm not asking you to do it, but I've known people who have posted on their LinkedIn, I went to a workshop today with this guy, Ross McPherson, and I learned really cool ideas about how to do this with my LinkedIn profile. I mean, anything, build community. Again, if there's an article, if there's something relevant that you just learned, if you found out something really cool or interesting that's relevant in some way, if you follow anyone through LinkedIn or elsewhere that's relevant to your industry and they post something really cool, put a link to it. And so that's the kind of content that really builds community. And honestly, I know recruiters who have looked at it and said, they're seeing all of this this is an active person. This is person active in his or her community. That goes a long way as opposed to someone who really isn't visible at all. Trust me, the visibility helps. I mean, people notice it. They really do. That was a long-winded answer, but hopefully you got some ideas in there.
No, definitely. And so everyone watching, attend LCS events, and then you can post after that.
Perfect example.
You attended this workshop or you came to meet the professionals. I'm just gonna look to see if there's any more.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a question. I think you answered this. Can I copy and paste bullet points from my resume on the experience section of LinkedIn?
Yes, you can. And I'll say two things about it. One, only if those bullet points are awesome. If they're really awful, now you have them in two places. That's not good. So if they're awesome, yes, you can copy and paste them over. The second thing I would say is, let's say, for example, you had to limit the number of bullet points you put under a job because you're trying to keep your resume to one page. Well, on LinkedIn, if you have two other bullet points you didn't have room for on your resume, you can add them into LinkedIn because now you've got the room for them. So I've known people who have done that, and it allows them to get a little extra content in there because you're not restricted by a physical a physical size of a page. So you can actually elaborate a little bit more on LinkedIn if you wanted to. But yes, that's the only place copying and pasting is okay.
Okay. There's one, what's the best way to get recommendations on LinkedIn and how many should I aim for? I think
Okay.
you mean endorsements by
Well,
recommend.
there's also a section for recommendations where you
Oh,
can
okay.
actually have someone write a little something about you. So whether it's endorsements or recommendations, here's my best recommendation to do that. Go to someone you would like to get an endorsement or recommendation from. If you know them personally, and I'm assuming if you want a recommendation from this person, you know them personally. It's kind of hard to get one from a stranger. If it's someone you worked with or worked for, like a former boss or something like that you're connected to, you contact them. There's a couple things you can do. You can either contact them and say, look, I'm trying to build out and strengthen my LinkedIn profile. I would love a recommendation from you. There's that. So you literally request it. And if they know you and hopefully like you, they will probably jump at the opportunity. The other thing you can do is you go to their profile, write them a recommendation for them, and then contact them or endorse them for certain skills. And then you contact them and say, just a heads up, great to see you again. I hope you don't mind. I just wrote a recommendation for you and also endorsed you for these 4 skills. I would love it if you could return the favor. I'm trying to build out my LinkedIn profile and strengthen it as well. And I would love a recommendation from you. That's how you get them. Okay. So the ideal is you offer something for them and then you request in turn. Then it's really easy for them to do it. In terms of how many, in terms of endorsements, the more the merrier. In terms of actual physical recommendations, do you need 30? No. Quite honestly, if you had only 4, that's great. But if they're 4 good ones, that's all that matters to me. That's all that matters to a recruiter. And an interesting little tip, instead of getting 4 from colleagues you worked with, try to mix it up so that they get a really good idea of you from different perspectives. So maybe you get one who was a work colleague, worked along with you, and he or she gives an interesting perspective of what it's like to work with you. Maybe if you supervise people, you get one from someone who worked for you. They're offering a different perspective. Maybe then you get one from a manager or supervisor who you worked under and you worked for them, and they get a sense for, as employees go, you know, Abrar was absolutely the dream. He was the one I knew I could count on every single time. And that gives you, there's 3 completely different perspectives of who you are. That really goes a long way. So again, it's all about being strategic and really thinking about this. What's the best way for people to see how great I am, to be honest with you, who you really are at your best? And those are ways I'd recommend. If you're going to get recommendations, just be strategic about it, but you don't need a ton. You really honestly don't need a ton. And the way to get them, offer it to them first. Do it for them first, and then contact them and say, I'd love you to return the favor. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I hadn't even thought of, when you think of a reference, you think someone who I worked under, but having people who you worked with, or maybe you led as well.
Oh, trust me, I've had people who have had recommendations from a boss, a boss's boss, a colleague, and maybe a client. I mean, and you can all of a sudden you're getting these, like, you only have 4 or 5, but they're all great and they're from different perspectives. You get a really good look at who this person is and how great they are, no matter who they're working with. It's a great thing to do. It's a great piece of advice.
Awesome. And I think it's getting close to 8. So we have one more question.
One more. I love it. Let's do it.
Okay. Are there any tips for increasing my visibility on the platform? But maybe I'll add on to it and kind of say, like, how to stay unique and not kind of fall into the same template what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, I mean, again, a lot of the things that we've talked about in terms of using that status update kind of thing, writing articles. But another thing you can do to build visibility, at least through LinkedIn, is join groups. And there are groups on LinkedIn. There's like, say, for example, you're into machine learning, and there's probably a machine learning group on there. In fact, there's probably 50 of them. If it's machine learning people in Toronto, I'm sure there's like a group for them. That's how specific some of them get. Join the groups that are relevant and get active on them. Like, seriously, if someone makes a really great point, respond to it and have something interesting or insightful or intelligent to say in response to it. The other thing you can do is actually pose a question and say, hey, I'm new to the group. I'm currently, you may be on the group with people who've been doing it for 15 years and say, I don't have 15 years experience, but I'm currently completing my degree in it, and I'm putting a focus on it for my degree at WLU. Anybody who's got any particular contacts or websites or anything you think I ought to be looking into, I would love your advice. And you'd be amazed at what people, and if you sound like someone who's kind of I hate to use the cliche, but kind of a go-getter, kind of someone who's really motivated and like, look, I want to learn more. I want to find the right people. I want to connect with the right people. Trust me, you would be amazed. You may get a flood of ideas. And now all of a sudden, people with 10, 15 years experience in your field of interest know who you are. That is invaluable compared to people who are in a vacuum and have never spoken to anybody in your industry. So that's another way you can kind of get out there, is just get active and start meeting people in the relevant areas. That's another great. And if you do go to events, if you do have like one of these workshops where you're, or events where you're getting to meet people, connect with them on LinkedIn. And every so often send them a little update. Or if you think there's an article you found that they might be interested in, send them a little message that says, hey, I thought of you. I read this article and thought of our conversation 6 months ago at that event. Hope you like it. You'd be amazed how far that goes. It honestly can. If you just keep doing it, all of a sudden you're a really interesting, really visible person. And it just sort of incrementally starts growing and growing and growing. That's the way you do it. It's hard to get it out there and suddenly be visible to 20,000 people at once. But if you start building it, it becomes a little more organic, and honestly, it just works like a dream.
And I noticed you actually don't have LinkedIn Premium, so maybe that's a tip to everyone. What
You
are your
don't
thoughts on
necessarily,
LinkedIn
yeah.
Premium?
Here's what essentially the benefit from LinkedIn Premium is: you get a little bit more, you can connect with more people in terms of messages. You get a little bit more access to people without being connected to them. You also get a lot better visibility in terms of the metrics of who's been to your profile and that kind of thing. You get a little bit more in terms of that. But do you need it? I've been on LinkedIn since day one. I've never had it, because you can do an awful lot without it. So that you bring up an interesting point. I know people who use it, they get right into the metrics of it, they get right into the data of it, and they take advantage of that. And if that's you, by all means, you're not signing up for it and you need to spend all the money for 10 years. You're not signing a contract. You can always undo it whenever you want to. But if you think you'll benefit from it, by all means. Do you need it though? No, you don't. They really do. They really do kind of make it optional for you, which in my opinion is the smarter way to go.
Well, that wraps up our questions. I just want to say thank you again. Like, our chat was going crazy. I think, peaked at around 85 viewers, or maybe
Oh, wow,
even more
great.
than that. Yeah, and like stayed consistent at around 70. So I think a lot of people are getting a lot of very good insights. I'd also like to point out that LCS is running a headshots event on March 11th.
There we go.
So if you saw Aiden's photo, that was actually from last year's headshots event. But this time we're going to be making everyone smile with their cheeks.
Please. There we go. There you go. They're not leaving till they smile.
Yeah, so that's going to be coming out soon. So everyone stay tuned on our socials. We're going to have a pre-registration link so you can pick a time slot. Also, speaking of LCS events, we have networking with recruiters coming up in March. So you can come out and learn from a bunch of recruiters in the tech industry. And with that, I would just like to say thank you, Ross. Every time this event happens, I have my notebook out and I'm taking notes. And at the last year's event, I actually noticed that my profile photo was on the setting that other people can't see it unless they're connected to me. So that helped me there as well. And yeah, if anyone has any last minute questions, we are at 8. So
yeah. And listen, let me thank you again for the opportunity. This was an absolute pleasure. So listen, I wish everybody the very best, and I will make the slides available. I'll send you a PDF to the executive team. And listen, I wish everybody the absolute best. Go out there, really sell yourself. Show me what makes you fantastic. And I wish everybody the best.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ross. We'll send out an email to everyone who signed in with the link with your Instagram and your LinkedIn and then all these slides.
Beautiful.
And yeah. Okay, so Shakib, why don't we end the stream there?